What am I on about? Okay, how are you doing, guys? My name is Chris McCringleberry. Yeah, and I am currently 25 years old. I live in Atlanta, and I am married to my lovely wife and 2 children, but I'm kind of unemployed. Yeah, so here's the thing. I am looking for a job, and that job is teaching US history. Right, I know. I should better find another profession. But here's the thing. I'm going to teach you all you need to know about why World War II started, both on the European and the Asian front. Right? Okay. So let's jump into it. Right. So, for those who don't know, World War II began technically on 1939, but people argue that World War II is a continuation of World War I. The reason being is that after the 1919 Treaty of Versailles, Germany was forced to pay a gigantic debt, which it finished paying on the year 2011. Yeah, it was a lot of money. And in exchange for this, there was a great economic crisis going on in Germany, which the Germans resented greatly, and it ended up in what is known to be the overthrow of the Weimar Republic and the instauration of Hitler as the dictator of Germany, which was popularly elected. Right. So, I think that's the first step into why World War II actually began, creating that deep resentment that the Germans had on the rest of the world because they lost the war. But not only that, but also because the Germans felt betrayed by a lot of different groups. They felt betrayed by the Jewish community, who financed the war against them, and you could argue that there was a lot of anti-Semitism still around, but at the end of the day, Germany used the scapegoats, in particular Hitler, used the scapegoats in order to justify its actions later on in the war and in the pre-war time period. Okay, so that was the first thing. As a result of World War I, another important key aspect is that Germany was divided. A lot of the ethnic German population was laid across Europe. Because, think about it, all the empires, like the Austro-Hungarian Empire or the Prussian Empire, all these had collapsed and formation of new countries began. So Germany was all spread out. This time period is known for one of probably the biggest mistakes from Chamberlain, who was a Secretary of Defense of the British Army. I'm not too sure on that. Let me check. Right, yeah. Okay, so the reason being was that Hitler began invading different areas. And by invading different areas, there was an international outrage, which was followed by a demand against Hitler, in which Hitler had to negotiate the retreat of his troops. But Chamberlain proposed an appeasement treaty, which managed to successfully give Hitler the rights to invade other countries. Yeah, in exchange for a long-lasting peace, which did not happen, taking into account that a few years later, Hitler would invade Poland and therefore initiate World War II. I'm going to have more information down below, or on the sides, or maybe on the top. Somewhere. I promise. But, going into more detail, World War II begins when Germany invades Poland. This causes a lot of tension on the Russian side, taking into account that Russia will sign a peace treaty with Germany to not interfere in the war efforts, which Germany is going to, interestingly enough, disobey and therefore lose the war. But that's on another episode. So, what happens is Poland gets invaded. Poland surrenders because Germany is applying a new strategy called the Blitzkrieg, which is basically storm all the cities, bomb by the air, shoot with a lot of cannons, use tanks, and then take over. So that happens, And so then France begins moving its troops, because obviously they don't want Germany rising up again. Unfortunately for the French, the Germans had enough time to change sides, because remember, Germany is here, Poland is here, and here is France. While France takes forever to move its troops up to the border, which had been already armed up, because one of the things that was established by the Treaty of Versailles was that the border was going to be secured and like really hyped up with military. Yeah, the Germans came and they were like, yeah. So France lost. That got the French into the war, which got the British into the war, because the Germans again invaded Belgium, Luxembourg, and all those nice countries over there. Immediately, Austria was annexed during the time of appeasement and all this like conflict where Germany is like trying to unify itself, and Hitler just has a lovely time. To be honest, a lovely time to go through all these countries and destroy every single political regime in its way. And so yeah, that's how World War II started, and the reasons why other countries started to get involved. I mean, the United States will not get involved until later on in the war, but that's that. Okay, going on to the Asian side of things. During this time period, because of the open door policy over Japan and China, Japan is getting a lot of industries going into Japan. That sounded redundant, but it's true. Basically, Japan starts hyping up its military, because they are smart. They understand that they don't want to be colonies for anyone. They are their own independent government, right? They don't want to be colonies like China. But China didn't make it because they were too unorganized to form a military. The Japanese were capable of keeping their own autonomy and sovereignty for a long period of time. In combination with the United States' technological advancements that were being brought into Japan, Japan was capable of forging large armies in a really extended period of time. So to the extent that Japan actually participated in World War I, invading key points of China. But now think about it. You're an industrializing nation. You have a lot of industries and a lot of demand for raw goods in order to convert those into products. Right? I mean, I just can't have cotton here and then make it suck. That's not how things work. Right? So, what Japan is going to do and start the war on the, I don't know if it's the Eastern or Western Front, but well, on the Pacific, I guess. I'm gonna call it the Pacific. Is they're going to invade China. In particularly, you're going to probably need to know this, the Nanjing attacks, I guess. Basically what it was is Japan doesn't have enough resources on its island to finance war, and because war had already begun over there in Europe, and Hitler had made agreements with Japan of taking the world together, then Japan had to step up its game, and in doing so they captured the northern part of China, which is rich in coal reserves and steel reserves, which are useful for the war and for industries. Hint, wink, nudge, nudge. Right? And because everyone else is like fighting each other, Japan has basically a round across the park. They just keep on going from island and island and country invading, right? So how does the war actually begin? Well, the war technically begins when Japan invades both Korea and China, again for resources and for territory, because everyone else is busy doing other stuff. Why not go and take over, right? Makes sense. But the most important part is that Japan seeks to consolidate its empire. They want to grow faster than the Germans can. Because, remember the Empire of the Sun, the almighty Japanese Empire. So in their mentality, it is, let's take over and then, yeah, right? So they begin invading other areas to the point in which the United States had been threatened, because Japan will eventually invade the Philippines, hint, wink, nudge, nudge, the Long March, which is not exactly good. It was when the Japanese forced military soldiers and Philippine soldiers that were stationed in the Philippines to march, and many died on the way, which is not ethically correct. But yeah, I mean, it's sad. But that was part of Japanese process of consolidation of the area, to the point in which Japan almost got there to Australia, which then became a problem. The war for the United States will begin as soon as Japan attacks Pearl Harbor. The reason why I say this, and this is from my perspective as my own, is because Japan was a threat to the United States, but the United States was not exactly willing to give up that territory, but they were not eager to go to war. Reason being, war is bad. People don't like war. Especially, people don't like war when you initiate it, right? Because technically Japan did acts of war, but it wasn't enough for the United States to be completely full. Okay, let's go to war now. In all wars, you're going to see that there is a lot of the population which is not in agreement with the government in this topic. So yeah, Japan attacks Pearl Harbor, Long March. United States is now eager to go back in there, so that's how the war starts for us. Yeah, so now let's go to Chris McCringleberry's perspective. Wait, there's a war? Oh. Cool, I guess. I mean, wait, what? More job opportunities? Yes!